Hello everybody, I'm Em. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my March wrap up. For the last few months I have done the Smooch, Marry, Kill. I'll be honest, I did not have the energy to write down all the titles on slips of paper. So we're just going to do a regular wrap up this time, thanks to my lack of motivation. If you are interested in my stats, they are here, courtesy of Storygraph. My average rating is high for this month, which mostly is because I read a lot of nonfiction and I read some bangers. I did a vlog that was only reading nonfiction and that was actually like a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I might do it again in a couple of months because there is so much good nonfiction and I am so good at picking out nonfiction for myself. I wish that talent extended to my fiction reads, because if it was just, let's just say if this average rating was based on my fiction books alone, it would not be this high. So without further ado, let's jump on in. I did read 19 books this month, which is ironic considering I've been talking about how I was a much slower reader in February, and for most of March I was a much slower reader as well. And then I did my Ketchup and Pickles vlog, which I'll link down below, and I read like 5 books during that week. So I don't know that I'm the problem. I think the books I'm picking up are the problem. So something to keep in mind as I pick my TBR in the coming months. We'll see how April goes. Now I'm going to be interested to see what my reading is like this month. But anyways, I did DNF my 2 TBR jar books for March. It was the Baby Dragon Cafe and I Like Me Better. They were both just not for me. They're both romances and I just did not enjoy the writing for either of them. I didn't even make it to like my customary 50 pages. They're just not for me. That's the point of the TBR jar, is to get me to pick up books sooner rather than later so I can find out whether or not I'm going to like them. So let's start with, let's do the nonfiction first. This is going to be fairly rapid fire because I talked about pretty much every single one of these in a vlog this month. So if you want my more in-depth thoughts, I will link the nonfiction vlog down below. Let's start with Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I read a early audiobook of this and its title says it all. John Green has long been an advocate for tuberculosis research and prevention and care online, and in March he had a book come out telling you all the things he has learned about tuberculosis in the last several years. I thought this was really well done. John Green is quickly becoming a favorite nonfiction author for me because this and The Anthropocene Reviewed were 5 stars, and I highly recommend this to everybody because there's a lot of stuff that is easily preventable in our world, and tuberculosis, if we put the time and care and money into it, would be easily preventable and curable as well. I also finally read The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Well, I say finally. I finally read a book by Coates, and it just so happened to be The Message. This is a book where the original intention was to be a book about writing, but quickly turned into more. Coates touches on book banning in the United States, especially his book Between the World and Me, which is ending up on a lot of banned book lists. He also, the majority of this book is talking about Palestine and the war on Gaza, and it's a great springboard into that topic if you haven't taken the time to learn about it yet. I had just started deep diving, and I think if you are ready to start doing some learning, this is a great start. But I definitely don't think this is the only one you should read. I think if you read this and you want more in depth, The 100 Years War on Palestine is a great follow-up to The Message. I also listened to an early copy of Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. This was also an arc. This just came out in March, and this is more political nonfiction, and it's about how in the United States and our politics we have really succumbed to a scarcity mindset, and what would be the possibilities of our country if our politicians and just people in general adopted an abundance mindset. And they break this down in how this would work with housing and medicine and tech, and it's a very hopeful book. It's a very well thought out book. You can tell Thompson and Klein have really thought on this a lot. I found this book a little frustrating because as somebody who's not involved in politics at all, while I loved their vision and this version of the world that they can clearly see, I don't know how we get here from where we are in the United States today. I don't know how we get our politicians to adopt this mindset and this view of what our country could be. So for that, it was very frustrating for me to read, but I think more people should read it, because maybe if enough regular people read it and make noise, maybe political leaders can be swayed as well. Feels too optimistic of a viewpoint right now, but you never know. I also read another arc. I was a lot of arcs in this video. Ordinary Time by Annie B. Jones. Annie B. Jones is the owner of The Bookshelf in Thomasville, Georgia, which is an indie bookstore. And this is her debut. This is a collection of essays talking about what happens when you choose to stay in your small town. Because I think if you are, I don't know how much this applies to other generations, but I feel like for millennials, we were really sold this idea of growing up, moving to the big city, getting a high-powered, important job, having a lot of money, having this really adventurous and exciting life. But like, what does your life look like if you don't move to the big city, if you stay in your small town, if you marry the boy you meet in college and you choose to make your home in a much quieter way? I really like this. I love Annie B. Jones on Instagram. I love how she runs the bookstore, the type of content she puts out, and I really liked getting to read this. It felt, I don't know, it was just lovely. And then the last two I also used for reading challenges. For the Buzzword Reading Challenge, the title prompt for March was to read a book with the word thing in the title, and I read The End of Everything, Astrophysically Speaking by Katie Mack. This is broken up into 5 chapters. Each chapter is about a way that the universe could end, a current working theory that cosmologists have. And Katie Mack walks you through what would happen, how probable that is, why scientists think this could be a possible outcome. And I really loved how delightfully insignificant this book made me feel. Katie Mack is clearly very, very smart, and I felt very, very dumb while reading this, but like in the best way. And I just thought it was so well done, and I think I might be like going down a nonfiction about space rabbit hole because I just wanted more of it. And then for Jan Agaton's Patreon, she does a coffin cover challenge every month, and the challenge for March was to read a book with a beverage on the cover, and I read Alton Brown's new collection of essays called Food for Thought. Alton Brown had a TV show on Food Network for a number of years called Good Eats, where he approached cooking from a very scientific mindset. And then he was also the host on Iron Chef America for a number of years. Both of those shows were big parts of like my adolescence, like high school, early college. I watched both those shows fairly frequently. And so it was really nice to like read this book and hear about different parts of his life, hearing about his career, how he developed Good Eats, how he got on Food Network, how he got the job as host for Iron America, what that was like. It was really interesting. So if you grew up watching those shows as well, you might really enjoy this. The audiobook was fantastic. Definitely the way to go. Okay, since we started talking about book challenges and reading challenges, let's finish that up. For my challenge of the year of Butler and Gaskell, March was a Butler month, so I read Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler, and boy, oh boy, this was a book that I read. This one is fairly controversial. I know there are a lot of people who get eked out by the setup, and I thought I was better than that, but I am not. I was also grossed out by this book. This is Butler's take on vampires, and our main character, Shuri, is a 53-year-old vampire, but her body looks like a 10-year-old girl's. And Butler does not back away at all from the sexuality of vampires in a lot of the myths and stories. And it grossed me out a lot. Now, I did really like the way Butler played with vampire lore and vampire society. I thought that was all very interesting, and of course the writing is very well done. I just could not get past the ick factor and the weird relationship between the vampires and like the people that they ensnare to be their followers. I just didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I have a new least favorite word thanks to this book. I'm hoping now that I've read this one, my track record with Butler just can only go up because I've gotten like, I think, the most controversial book out of the way. But yes, I am just like everybody else. I did not enjoy this book either. Oh, I forgot to mention, for the buzzword cover challenge, the prompt was to read a book with books on the cover, and I put Ordinary Time into that because there's little books in the windows of the bookstore. And then for the Betty Pages Challenge Your Shelf Reading Challenge, I read Abortion by Jessica Valenti. This was great. I got a lot out of this. She has a lot of educational things to share, a lot of information to share about dog whistles and words that conservatives will use to try to lie or spread misinformation or disinformation about abortion, and I thought that was really helpful to get. I did not want another book about abortion that was shouting into the void or preaching to the choir, and I felt like this was a good mix of that, but also actionable things that you can implement, and so I thought that was very helpful and very awesome. I also did a couple vlogs this month where I read one book specifically for the vlog. I had a Read Sword Heart With Me vlog that came out. I was so excited for this re-release of Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher and the new cover. I think it's absolutely stunning, and this is my kind of romantasy. This is what I want when I pick up romantasy. I don't want what is currently popular, trending. I want sweet, I want cozy, I want respectful, and I want this vibe. So this is about Hala, is a widow. She's a little bit older, as a lot of T. Kingfisher's heroines tend to be, and she has inherited her deceased husband's uncle. She has moved in to take care of him. He has died, and he has left his whole fortune to Hala, and her in-laws are pissed about it, and they are trying to force her to marry a male member of the family so that they can take the inheritance from her. And Hala decides that the only way to escape this is to kill herself, and she takes a sword off of the wall and is preparing to stab herself, but when she unsheaths it, this paladin comes out of the sword and is like, whoa, I cannot let you kill yourself. This is not, no. And they embark on a road trip basically to save Hala's fortune, and this was great. Classic T. Kingfisher, great humor, amazing side characters, wonderful animal companions. I just absolutely loved this, and I think she's gonna write more books in this world, which I'm so down for. I'm so excited about it. And then the other book that got its own vlog was The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. This is his most recent release. This is his first foray into historical fiction, and this is kind of epistolary. It's told in journal entries, and we start in 2012 when this woman, Etsy, finds her multi-great-grandfather's journal. And then we are reading the journal entries from this pastor in 1912. And he is recounting a story that he is hearing from an indigenous man about how this indigenous man became a vampire. This is really bleak. This is very bloody, though, as I'm finding with a lot of Stephen Graham Jones, it is a slow burn horror. You have to wait a long time for the horror elements to start, and then once they start going, oh my gosh, then it's nonstop. I find his ending so much stronger for me as a reader than his beginnings. I didn't love this one, like I said, it just because the beginning was so slow, and honestly I really loved Etsy's point of view, so once we switched to the 1912 timeline, I wasn't as interested or invested. I feel like the multiple different entries of the journals made it hard to connect with the characters. But I think if you like revenge horror, if you want to see how Stephen Graham Jones plays with vampire lore compared to how he has played with werewolf lore, I definitely think you should pick this up. I'm going to keep reading more Stephen Graham Jones because I think he does very interesting things in his books, and I really like his writing style. And then I also read 4 books trying to black out my R fantasy bingo board for 2024, and I made it with just a few days to spare, and that was kind of a mixed bag as well. I read 2 books I really liked and 2 books that I thought were just kind of fine. I read The Outside by Ada Hoffman, which is science fiction. It's supposed to be cosmic horror. It's not really cosmic horror. I really liked the beginning half of this book. It's about a woman named Yasura, who is this autistic scientist who has been working on this tech. And in this world, all the gods are AI. And so science and religion are one and the same. And humans aren't meant to build machines or dabble in science. That is the purview of the gods. But Yasura is a once-in-a-generation genius, and she builds this, and then something goes awry and it sets her off on this journey. Like I said, I thought the first half was really strong. I really liked the premise. I really liked the world building. I really liked Yasura. And then the second half, it kind of fell off for me. I felt like the pacing kind of lost its tempo, and I thought Yasura did several things that felt really out of character for her, and I just did not love it. So I'm not going to be continuing on with this series. I think this is a trilogy, but I'm just not interested in going on considering how it ended. And then I reread Ella Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine, which I haven't read, I think, since I was actually a teenager. This is a YA Cinderella retelling, and it's absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend. If you read this, you can really see the influence that this has had on fairy tale retellings, specifically Cinderella retellings. And then I finally read The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez, which I soft DNF'd, I think 2 years ago. And I finally came back, restarted, and finished. Oh, do I even know how to talk about this? I don't know if I do. This is fantasy. It is definitely literary fantasy, and it's a little confusing, and I didn't love it. I think what I realized while I was reading this is that literary fantasy just does not scratch any itches for me, though literary sci-fi can. So I thought this was just fine. I can appreciate what he's doing. I like his writing. I didn't care about what was happening in this book. And then the last book I read for that vlog was Ardent Violet and the Infinite Eye by Alex White. This is book 2 in the Star Metal Symphony series. Book 1 is August Kiko and the Mechas from Space. This was so fun. Alex White writes such a rompy space opera, and I love it, and I love their writing, and I can't wait for volume 3. Book 1 starts off where these mechs have come down to Earth. Earth is about to be destroyed by these evil mechs, and these other mechs come down and they convince this musician named August Kitco to partner with them, and August Kitco's partner, Ardent Violet, who is a pop star, joins as well, and then this is just a continuation of that battle between good and evil in the universe, and it's a great, fun, queer time. All right, we're going to talk about the three horrors next, and then we'll end with 2 of my favorite books that I read this month. The first one is Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy. This is a novella about a man who is traveling. Oh, that's my lunch. Hold, please. This is about a man who is driving late at night, and he stops at a rest stop to get some snacks and use the bathroom, and he finds himself unintentionally locked in the bathroom and is basically tortured all night. And this was gross and violent, and I don't know that I would recommend this, but I oddly enjoyed reading this one. I don't know. I gave it 4 stars. It was a fast time. I don't know that I liked it, but I would be open to reading more Nat Cassidy. I say I didn't like it, but I gave it 4 stars. Actually, that trend is going to continue on with Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fato. This is also a horror novella, and we're following Winifred Naughty, who is coming to be a governess to these kids at this estate, and she's a psychopath. So yeah, it's short. And I would say the voice for Winifred is so spot on and specific. I don't know that I've read another main character or even read a book like this ever in my life. I also do not know who I would recommend this to. I don't think this is particularly horrific. I mean, it kind of is. It is more gross than scary or suspenseful or tense. It's just gross, like constantly gross. And it's one of those books where I was never quite sure if I should be laughing or if I should be horrified. But I gave it like 3.75, maybe a 4-star, but I don't know who I'd recommend it to, and I don't know if I even liked it. There you go. And then a horror that I absolutely loved, gave 5 stars. One of my favorite things I read this month is Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. This is a YA horror about a boy named Andrew who goes to this boarding school, and he is coming back for a new year, and his best friend Thomas has monsters following him and attacking the school. And these are monsters that Andrew has created in these fairy tales that he's written and then Thomas has drawn. And they are now manifesting and attacking students at the school, Andrew, Thomas, and they are trying to figure out how to stop them. This is gothic. This is sad. Check your trigger warnings. I loved the ending for this. I thought it was so well done. I thought the writing was beautiful. I will probably be trying to get my own copy because even though I tend to not reread horror, this is one that I want to reread because the ending was just so fantastic and left me just destroyed. And then my other 2 favorites from this month are The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love by India Holton. This is a historical romance with a slight fantasy bend, and our main characters are Beth and Devin, who are both young ornithology professors at conflicting universities, and there is a contest for Birder of the Year, and whoever wins Birder of the Year will also win coveted tenure at their university. So Beth and Devin, am I remembering his name? Yeah, Devin. They start out as rivals. This is really like idiots falling in love. I just utterly adored it. India Holton has such a great sense of ridiculous without being, I mean, it is over the top, but it doesn't feel disingenuous. It's just my favorite level. Like, it's kind of like T. Kingfisher, just dialed up a little bit, and I just absolutely love it. I loved the campiness. I loved how she built the romance. I loved Devin and Beth and how they played off of each other and their banter and the magical birds that India Holton created in this world. And it was just so fun, so fun. I can't wait for book 2, which comes out, I think, next week. And I'm just an utter fan. I had such a good time. I have not enjoyed a historical romance like this in a very, very long time. I think if you like Tessa Dare, you should also check this book out. And then finally, my favorite book of the month. Okay, this is an arc. This doesn't come out until May, but Alana series by Tamora Pierce being adapted into a graphic novel. It was so good. This is, hi, if you're new here, this is my favorite middle grade series or YA series. I don't even know what it's considered anymore, but where are my books? Oh, here it is. So this is my favorite series of all time, followed closely by Gideon the Ninth. But this is from childhood. This is my favorite series of all time, and it's being adapted into a graphic novel. This was so good. Vita Ayala is the author who has adapted the novel into this, and they did such a phenomenal job taking Tamora Pierce's words and putting them into the book. This story includes so much of the novel. So many of my favorite lines of dialogue are in here, and are in here the way they appear in this book. And that was so lovely. I loved the illustrations by Sam Beck and getting to see all these characters and all these scenes and all these locations that my pitifully insufficient brain has been trying to visualize for the last 25 years more. And it was so great. And I read it in black and white. and I gave it 5 stars. I cannot wait to get a physical copy and to see all these illustrations in full color and to see all these characters that I have loved with my whole heart in full color. I squealed while I was reading this. Even though I've read this book, I don't even know how many, like I've read this book, I don't even know how many times, and it didn't matter. It's fantastic. I can't wait to order a copy and have it on my shelves and add it to my Alana collection. It's gonna be so great. So if you are also an Alana lover, which I know there's a lot of you out there, I highly recommend picking this up when it comes out in May. All right, let me consult my reading journal to see if there's any books that I don't have physical copies of that I forgot to tell you about. All right, that is everything, friends. Those are all 19 books that I read in March. It was a pretty good reading month, I have to say. Thanks to that nonfiction. There are only a few flops book-wise, I feel like. Only a few met reads. I definitely read some chunkier books. I also think the thing that I've been doing differently this year is I have not been as dependent on audiobooks as I have been in the past, and that would definitely contribute to the first part of this month, or like the first 3/4 of March being a slower reading time. But I know now that I look at all of them in a stack, it was a pretty good month. So no complaints, I guess. Although I do think I am not a vampire book person, so I'm gonna have to keep that in mind going forward. I just don't think I should read vampire books for a while. I think reading 2 this month kind of took me out. But anyways, with that, we have reached it to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching and spending your precious time with me. I really appreciate it. If you want to leave an emoji to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, I guess let's do a vampire emoji since I read 2 of them. Though we did a vampire for Buffalo Hunter. You know, let's do a bird emoji for Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love. We'll do a bird emoji. And like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Bye!